TYT Sports, everybody. Ben Mankiewicz, Michael Schur, Francis Maxwell on the end. Everyone talking about Pete Carroll's decision to throw on second down at the end of the Super Bowl, going down as a notoriously bad sports decision. I think Bill Belichick's decision not to call a timeout equally bad, just turned out not to matter because his team won. But there's a long history of bad decisions in sports. Pete Carroll is on the list already for the decision to take Reggie Bush out of the game in the 2006 National Championship game for the 2005 season against Texas. Turns out they would have had to vacate that title anyway, even if he'd left Reggie Bush in and gotten the first down. But there are many others from soccer and Zidane's peculiar headbutting. Did that change the course of that game?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt. I mean, Zidane was still given the Player of the Tournament award. He was still phenomenal throughout, but you could see the French players' heads were down after that, and Italy had that upper hand. And it's unfortunate because he's a great player, and he'll forever be known as the guy who headbutted some other guy for saying his wife or his mum was a whore. I think that was what it was. Lip reading scenario.
But won't he also be known for being an unbelievable player?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it was really unfortunate that this would overshadow him. Because for me, I tell Jason this all the time, he's the best player I've ever seen. I've been at a couple of games and I've watched him play, and he's just phenomenal. So
it was 1-1 at the time, and then he couldn't participate in the shootout, which they lost. That's right.
And he is the number one penalty taker.
Yeah,
taken many of them before.
So turning to baseball, a couple that the Red Sox fans have had to live with: Grady Little leaving Pedro Martinez in the last of the 8th inning in Game 7 in the American League Championship
and
Series.
Fired right after. That cost him his job.
And it just seemed, again, you watch enough baseball, you watch enough of that series, you were like, nobody better than Pedro. It was done.
He was done, and he was known for, I forget what the pitch count was, 95 pitches, 100 pitches.
Over 100.
But at a certain point, Pedro went south all the time. He was unbelievable, and then when he got past his pitch count, a disaster. And it's not like the Red Sox bullpen was crap. They were great.
Yeah,
so,
it was a peculiar decision.
Yeah.
But the most peculiar Red Sox managerial decision that in my lifetime, and one of the worst playoff baseball managing decisions, and baseball playoff decisions get scrutinized all the time. The overwhelming majority of them are defendable, even if we scrutinize them. Some of them are pretty dumb, and the pressure of that moment causes guys to stop doing what they normally do. But John McNamara, who was the very silly manager of the 1986 Red Sox, Francis, an example of this, John McNamara had his number 3 hitter, or sometimes he led off, but his best hitter on his team was the third baseman, a player named Wade Boggs, a great, great hitter. And when he would take him out of the lineup because he needed a day off or his thumb hurt or whatever, he would play the backup third baseman, a backup infielder, was a player named Ed Romero. And McNamara would just have Ed Romero hit third because that's where the third baseman hit. And you're like, dude, Ed Romero's terrible. He hits 9th, you reshuffle your order. Every kid who's ever played
strategizing of 1894.
Right. Yeah. So in the bottom of I guess it was the 10th or was it the 11th inning when I guess it was just the 10th.
10th inning.
Of the 10th inning in a Game 6 of the 1986 World Series with the Red Sox up 5-3 against the Mets. Bill Buckner was the Red Sox first baseman, and John McNamara did not replace him as he had earlier in the World Series with a far more skilled defensive first baseman, a guy named Dave Stapleton. And I think he just forgot, actually.
Right. Or he thought, and some people...
He quote.
That's what I'm saying. Get to the quote in a sec. Right. I'm fairly certain he just forgot, and then his quote afterwards was what, Jason?
I wanted him to be on the field when we won.
Bill Buckner would have been fine charging out of the dugout and raising his hands in the air as the first baseman.
By the way, there's nobody who's more upset about John McNamara's decision than the guy he left on the field.
And of course, the ball famously, the ground ball famously from Mookie Wilson rolled under his legs, allowing the winning run to score. A couple other great ones. Mike Holmgren in the Super Bowl letting Terrell Davis score on second down to put the Broncos up 31-24 when, again, if you stop them twice more, the Packers are a tough defensive line. Mm-hmm. You use your timeouts, make them kick a field goal. You still have
maybe you're good.
And maybe you're good there. That one a little defendable to me, but when Holmgren said, "I didn't realize it was second down," that part bothers me.
No love for Chris Webber to cost his team a national championship.
The timeout.
That's a different decision because that's an immediate It's an immediate panicked decision by a player, not a coach.
It's not a coaching decision, really. But.
I mean, neither is
At no
Zidane.
point the coach said, "Guys, we don't have any timeouts."
So
There's no
it's a
communication.
college kid, and it was first of all, he was already panicking. He massively traveled before the timeout that did not get called.
Yeah.
He turned his pivot foot. He hopped. He did everything wrong.
He was a mess.
And I think he recognized, I have already committed a turnover. I think at some point a referee is going to see that I've committed a turnover. I'm going to call timeout and get out of the situation. Because he knew immediately then after he called it that they had none. And
so without touching on it, so that we go into a full different conversation, but I feel that there's a lot of times where these decisions, like, they resonate a lot with the coaches when, for me, professional athletes, yes, under pressure and everything, like, they need to take huge responsibility in their decisions, even if it's a pre-predicted play.
Well, but a baseball player can't take himself.
No,
out of
absolutely.
it.
I'm talking about in a situation, if you just brought up Chris Webber, and I'm thinking immediately, I don't want to touch on just Russell Wilson's decision there, but for me, yes, the play's been called from the sideline, but if you're the starting quarterback and you don't feel utmost comfortable with that play, do you not have to take some of the responsibility for that and understand that you've got a running back who could go through or whatever?
You could. I mean, as we looked at it yesterday, you see some of the shots of what Russell Wilson saw on that play, for example, and that guy looked open.
Looked wide
open.
open.
And you see a guy 6 yards back, you do not think that guy's going to come make Wilson did not make a great decision. He did not throw a good ball, but that guy made a truly,
New York Times,
Malcolm Butler made it incredible.
New York Times is running a very poignant article about Bob Gibson, who was the Giants' assistant coach. This is another one of them. The Miracle at the Meadowlands, this play is called, with Joe Pisarcik. On the previous play, he took a knee, and then at the end of the game, the next play, instead of taking a knee, the offensive coordinator had him hand the ball off. The ball was fumbled. Herman Edwards of the Eagles picked the ball up, ran into the end zone, scored a touchdown. Bob Gibson was fired the next day. Bob Gibson was the offensive coordinator. Never worked in football again. Moved south to Florida. Opened a restaurant and a bait and tackle store. Does not, even with his family, talk about that play at all. He's in his 80s now. He's infirmed. His grandson said that he talked to him about it. He said one sentence about it, and that was it.